Hi everyone, it's Kathy for Whimsy Stamps, and today I'll be creating a card using the super cute Happy Hamsters Stamp and Die Set, the Quick Strips die set, the Wonky stitched rectangles, and the 6x6 birthday paper pad. For this card, I decided that I was going to try something a little bit different because there is a little hamster, as you can see, who's hanging onto a balloon, and then another hamster hanging onto the balloon string, and then there is a balloon with a hamster inside the balloon. So I was going to attempt to color the balloons transparent so that you could still see the hamsters. So how I did that was for the little hamster who is hanging onto the balloon, I started to color him in with E55 and put that where the darkest areas would be, like where his feet are right behind the balloon. Then I used the same color to draw in his body that you would be able to see through a transparent balloon. And I wasn't trying to get it to be perfectly shaped. I just wanted to have a basic outline of the hamster's little body. If you look at a glass that has a straw in it, sometimes the glass will look, not the glass, the straw will appear to be bent because of the refraction of light. So I thought that it would be okay if my little hamster guy was a tad bit distorted because you are looking through something that is transparent and the light would be refracted. So after I was done drawing in the rest of his little body, I did add some shading to the bottom of his arms and around his head and his ears. Then I came in with E31 to blend out that E55, and I just colored in the rest of his belly with the E31. And again, right now I'm coloring the hamster, not the balloon. We'll get to that in just a moment. After I was done coloring in his tummy, I realized that his feet looked like they were a little bit detached. So I came back in with the E55 and just connected his feet to his body. Then I colored in his little muzzle, and for that I used E53 and E51. I'm not going to show how I colored the hamster with the cupcake in this video. I do, however, have a card at the end of this video to share with you where I used that little hamster, and all the details for that particular card will be over on my blog, and I'll make sure to have that linked in the description box below, as well as all of the products that I used and the Copic markers that I used. So back to coloring the hamster who is hanging onto the balloon string. For these little guys, I wasn't too concerned about a light source as much as I was where shadows would be. So with the E55, I added the shadows where the leg that is closest to us is bent. I made sure to add a shadow next to that leg because it would be casting a shadow on his belly or side. I guess that's his side. And I added shadows in around his arm and on his feet, and then decided that the shadows needed to be just a tad bit darker. So I came in with the E35 and darkened up some of those shadows. I blended that out with the E55 and then colored in the rest of his body with the E31. At this point, I'm kind of looking at that little guy, and I wasn't too happy with the blending, but because of the Cougar Super Smooth cardstock, which is the cardstock that I'm using, you kind of have to let the ink settle in a little bit, and so that's what I'm doing. I decided to move on to the hamster that's inside the balloon to give the ink a chance to settle, and then I'll go back and I'll blend out some of those harsher lines on that little hamster. So for the guy that's in the balloon, I started with the E35 and added in the shadows along the bottom of him, so I guess like his back, and then that little area where his hands are resting on his belly and his leg is bent a little bit, that area would definitely have a shadow, so I used the E35 for that. Then I came in with the E55 and started to blend that out, and I made sure to leave some pretty good white space at the top of his leg and on his arm just to maintain a little bit of a highlight there. For their little hats, which I didn't record that, I just used two colors, YG17 and YG03, and again, all of the colors will be listed in the description box below. For the inside of their ears, I just used R20, and then it was time to start coloring in the balloons. This was really kind of definitely out of my comfort zone, and I decided to do yellow balloons because there's a really nice bright yellow in the patterned paper that I'm going to be using. And yellow is a pretty light color, so I figured that the transparency would be more obvious with the yellow. I don't know, you guys let me know. Did I achieve the transparency look here? I mean, can you tell that that's the hamster body behind that balloon and that the other hamster that's in the balloon is actually inside the balloon instead of sitting on top of the balloon? To color in the balloons, I started with Y17 and I added that like at the bottom of the balloon and then around the edges. And then I came in with Y08 and filled most of the balloon in, and I left a little bit of a highlight for the Y13. Then I filled in that area with the Y13 and moved on to the balloon that has the hamster inside the balloon. And for the Y17, I did extend that out a little bit further up towards the top of the balloon and a little bit further up from the bottom of the balloon. Then I came in with the Y08 and started to fill in the balloon and left that one little white spot right in the middle to fill that in with the Y13. I do end up going over to the other balloon and doing a quick swipe with the Y08 to kind of mellow out that center highlight, and then I did one more quick swipe over the balloon with the hamster inside the balloon. After I was done with the coloring, I did run those guys through my Gemini Junior with the coordinating dies and then stamped out my sentiment. And the stamp set has buildable sentiments, which I really like. And the way that I like to stamp them is I like to stamp the main part of the sentiment first. And for the sentiment, I used VersaFine Onyx black ink. And then I'll add the last part of the sentiment. And the reason I do that is because of the borders around clear stamps. If I've tried to line them up at the same time, and I just can't seem to get the words close enough together. It always seems like there's quite a bit of space between the main part of the sentiment and then my add-on sentiment. I did run that through my Gemini Junior with a fishtail banner die, and then it was pretty much just time to put the card together. I adhered a piece of green cardstock cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 to the front of a top folding A2 size note card. And my note card is made from Neenah Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock. The pennant patterned paper, I did run that through my Gemini Junior with the largest Wonky stitched rectangle die and adhered that to the front of the card. I cut the other piece of patterned paper down to 2 1/4 by 4 1/4 and adhered that to a piece of cardstock that's 2 1/2 by 4 1/2 and adhered that to the front of the card. I did put a bunch of foam tape on the backside of the balloons and the sentiments, and I fussed around with the placement of the images, and when I was happy with the placement, I pressed everything into place. I did add some Wink of Stella over the balloons, and then to finish it up, I added a highlight on the standalone balloon with my white gel pen, and that finishes up my card for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not yet subscribed, I'd love it if you would. And don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.